As the devastating wildfires continue to spread across Southern California, thousands of structures have been destroyed and damaged. You've seen the pictures. So far, at least 16 lives have been lost, and officials do expect that number to rise. But the wildfires have also taken and are taking a heavy mental toll on the first responders trying so desperately to keep everyone safe. Joining me now with more on this is Susan Farren, founder of executive director of First Responders Resiliency, Inc., a nonprofit dedicated to helping first responders and their families. Susan, it is good to see you. Thank you for coming on and talking about this. You know, we talk about them as heroes. You yourself, a first responder for, what, 30 years or so.
Yeah.
We talk about you and all first responders as heroes, but we don't often think about what happens after heroes perform their jobs. You began by helping about 40 first responders 7 years ago, and now you're up to about 12,000 across the country. What kind of care do those on the front lines need that we may not be thinking of and they may not even be thinking of right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, Phil. The truth is that we're trained to do this work in advance of the disasters that we face, but we're not trained how to recover from that usually. Traditionally, those approaches are reactive. We provide proactive training, allowing the first responders and their families to recover from the impacts of the trauma and stress that they're being faced with every day.
This is the kind of trauma and stress that people, I mean, it's obvious you're fighting a fire or you're going to whatever kind of catastrophe and trying to save lives. You're doing your job, but it's the kind of trauma that you may not even realize you're experiencing, right? And you try to get to people before it gets overwhelming.
Absolutely. The phrase that we use is you can't see the label from inside the jar. So oftentimes first responders and their families, they recognize the impact of the event that they're going through at the time, but it's what's happening to their nervous system, how they're being impacted physiologically as a result of what they're being exposed to, that most of us are completely unaware of until sometimes weeks, months, or even years after we've been doing this work, that those symptoms of post-traumatic stress begin to show up. So our goal is to help them mitigate, sometimes prevent, but absolutely prepare for those so that they can recover and get back to their lives, get back to their work, and be in touch with their families again, which can have a huge impact, is that breakdown in the family unit after they've been exposed to that kind of stress and trauma.
And Susan, you do this work, you've been doing it now for about 7 years. I know people can help first responders through your organization, but, you know, as civilians, when we say, you know, thank you for your service to a vet or someone in the military, or we say to firefighters, thank you so much for trying to save my home or saving my home, what can civilians do? What can you tell civilians that they can do to help first responders?
Well, I think just that gratitude is a lot of why we're in the work in the first place. Is it feels good to be serving others. It's the greatest gift you can give another person, is to protect them. But part of what we're doing right now is we're trying to create our conferences across the country so that we can help these first responders who are exposed to these disasters to get the help that they need without any cost to them, working in collaboration with organizations like the Raven Drum Foundation and Friends of Firefighters, so that we can have people who want to help us help those folks who actually need this kind of training and education and the tools they need to be able to stay healthy and alive.
And Susan, I'm curious, is there any legislation you're looking at or you think would be necessary to help in this battle?
Absolutely. One of the things that we're working on is getting legislation changed so that it's a cultural shift, and that educationally, first responders, before they go into these careers, are trained about the most important piece of equipment they'll ever have, which is their nervous system, training them in what's happening to their brains and spinal cords so that we can give them the education and the tools before they hit these careers, before they're exposed to these disasters repeatedly without any real breaks, as you're seeing right now in Southern California, so that they know what to do when they have these short breaks, how to get that nervous system back online, how to get themselves out of this chronic state of fight or flight. We'd like that in the academies before they hit the job.
Yeah, we're watching pictures of the firefighters actually fighting. We're talking about hurricane force winds whipping around fire and embers. These are human beings, brave human beings. They are not machines, and they are going to need help. So thank you for everything that you do with your organization and Raven Drum and all these foundations.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you for letting us be here.
Good to talk to you.